Okay. It should be live, I think. Start virtual camera, and now I'll share it to you, I guess. Or 1 second, I will call you again.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Video. Can you see anything or not? No, it's blank. Okay, I guess I'll share my screen with you, or you can.
I can follow the stream.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Let me copy the link then. 1 second. Here and here. All right. So, welcome to the stream number 2. You can see that the camera angle is different, and I hope you can hear me better now. And it turns out that the camera in different position is actually now brighter, so you can also see me better. So, it's all good. It's a bit late. Sorry, I will drink Red Bull because I need my brain to start working a bit faster. Again, today with us we have Szymon.
Hello.
Yep. So you can see the notepad, the magic notepad that I cannot see, but now I can see it also. So Szymon actually had a very good idea that we well discussed off stream. That right now, maybe you want to describe it or not.
Yeah, I just say that I'm came up with idea to maybe use the code generation if use case will be, if we need it. Yeah, if we find out that this is a good idea, that it's the best option in perspective of, I don't know, optimization, or there is no workaround. I think it can be also very good experience for us to design such system with code generation feature. But we will see. Maybe we can do it with traditional way. Yeah.
Yep. Well, 1 second, because I see that I have an important phone call. Sorry guys for that. So my first reaction to Shimon's idea was that no, and well, I started to think about this, and maybe I will tell you why no, because as far as the idea of having it self-generated, so an idea where we could create library that could be downloaded on multiple services, and then maybe create a single place where all the sagas would be defined or something like that. uh, the problem with tools with the tools that are generating something is that I never saw it finished differently. That people are not aware that something is generated or something is generated, but not the way they want it to be. And then they stop using the changes in the code to generate something differently, but they are replacing the generated code in the end. So the problem is, and this is some kind of convention, as you called it last time, that, well, if something is generated, then of course it shouldn't be changed by hand. But the problem is that in the end, I've always seen it that people are changing this by hand and then turning off the generation features. So that's my way of thinking. I mean, I'm just saying from the experience. I think I didn't. I always see this happen like that. It always ends the same way.
Yeah,
From my
I
experience.
totally understand. Yes. So once again, I consider this only an option, and I think that it's exciting to explore this option, but I think it's too early to consider this right now. Yes, we don't know yet which case we could in which case we could apply as code generation. So hold our horses.
Yeah.
let's go from the start, and if there will be a case that will be that the code generation will be good and will be efficient and have several benefits, will apply. But let's start from the start.
Yeah,
First
definitely.
things first.
So I think that if you guys are, I know how, if is anyone watching us, and I don't know why again do we have disabled chat for this stream. People were telling me that something is disabled, and I don't know why. Maybe I'll check this, why this is happening again.
We need an expert for YouTube.
1 second, I need to solve this. I have a very busy day, and as you can see, my day haven't yet ended. I need to message my wife quickly. Okay, should be fine now. All right, so YouTube again. I need to chat. I have a very busy day, and as you can see. Okay, it's again says that it should be for children. Set that it's okay for children, but I think I set this setting again. Okay, you will be stuck with us guys without chat, at least for now, for all the 2 people that are watching, and one is me, and the other one is Shimon.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah. Well, so I was saying that probably you won't be seeing us coding anytime soon, because first we have our magical notepad, and for today I would plan 2 things. Probably, well, the first one is to make a decision if we are doing a library that will be queue based or service based. So who will be this coordinator for receiving everything and controlling the whole flow? So we will discuss this a bit, maybe some pros and cons, etc. for this one. Then I would probably, if we make a decision on this one, I would start maybe by drawing on Miro or on Draw.io or something for drawing. We will start like ideation phase, where we would figure out how we want this library to work. I mean, from the perspective of process, not from the perspective like, oh, maybe we'll create this API and you will call it like that, etc., etc. No, I want us to understand how the process of running the Saga will work.
What will be the workflow? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I call it process workflow. It's exactly what I mean. So I want us to understand this and precise this, and then if we are lucky and we manage to figure this out, we will start defining a backlog and defining the features that should be in the MVP. So basically the first two points that we have in the magic notepad. So let's start then. Do we want to make some kind of revision of the orchestration based Saga, because I understand that this is the one that we are following.
Yeah, we will follow. So I have to. I admit that I worked a little bit yesterday, and I made let's say prototype, so I can share my, let's say, the idea how I could design it. So
Okay, how do you want to make it then?
I would design it as the service, as a separate service that is connected into with the queue, and the service itself have some definitions of how to move from one event or message, let's say, from one message to another message. And it would be like, I read some documentations of the other Saga frameworks in .NET, and it was like we should define some of handlers, but I realized that maybe it's simpler. Maybe we can just reacting on some events and create another events, mapping those events, and in this way we can trigger some handlers in the client's code. Maybe I should draw it for you.
Do we go to Miro or something like that?
Yeah, Miro would be great.
Okay. Then. You have the board that I've sent you, right? The Saga one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I see. Yes. And logging. Okay. Okay, I'm here and okay, I have. Do you see any sketches?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so my idea is, let's say we have some services. Maybe it will be the rectangle. 1, 2. No. 3. And now we have an orchestrator, and orchestrator will be also implemented by the developer. We will prepare some tool to build the workflow, but the deployment of this will be responsibility of the developer.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that we have also the this is the queue, and I will maybe okay. Oh, this is bus, yes. And let's say we want to have a transaction, and we want to thank you. We want to start with some message to our to our orchestration tool that we want to start, let's say, transaction 1. So let's put the transaction start transaction. Oh my god, that's my first time with this tool. Sorry.
Where are the UI designers when you need them?
Start. Let's say start transaction. Yeah, message. So, and orchestrator. Okay, thanks. Orchestrator will read this message. Maybe it's too big, but anyway. And then it will trigger some kind of first transaction step message, and it's to the queue. And this this service is also connected with this queue, so it will receive this message and will do the work, and then it will send the message back that the first step was done. So orchestrator will receive that message and will trigger this command or something like that with that message in service 2. Service 2 will when it will finish, it will send the message that the step 2 was completed, and so on and so on. So we have service 3, and if the service 3 also finish the work, then the orchestrator with that have all the definitions of transaction know that service 3 was the last part of this chain. So he can the orchestrator can publish events like okay, we finished, we can consider those transactions as committed. So you can publish your events, let's say, after the transaction, because after the transaction we usually publish some events. Yeah, that's some of the state of the system has been changed. So those events would be triggered after the whole chain will pass. Yes. So when we are in transaction, we not publishing any events. Only events are related with orchestrator, and after that, when orchestrator will publish that the transaction has been committed, we can publish some other events. And why I came up with this idea is because I think it's very, very easy to integrate with existing systems, because we have to only publish an event. We don't need to change the handlers or something like that. We have to only publish the events, and orchestrator will recognize the event and will trigger another one. And in the orchestrator, developer will have to do some stuff like mappings or logs. For example, if there is already a transaction, already active transaction that has, for example, has in start transaction message some ID with 5, and if the second message, start transaction message, will be triggered with 5, we know that we shouldn't allow this transaction go along. Yes, so yeah, that's my idea basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I like the idea that first I will say the good things, because I believe this is a very good idea, that what you mentioned about that this can be implemented in an older systems. This is a very good point, because as you said, to use the library, this is something from the library, this section, let's say. I don't know if you can see what I'm selecting here, but let me draw a line, connection line, maybe not a connection line, but like from this perspective, this is what we are adding to the game, right?
Yes.
And this is where the change starts, like only on this single orchestrator. The rest is kind of like an existing system, but then when you were describing this idea, I was like, how does it differ then from the choreography saga?
I think the difference is that we define workflow not in services, but in the orchestrator.
Mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we don't like, okay, so let's trigger the command in the service too, or something like that. We don't have such thing because we are just notifying the orchestrator that, hey, we are service one, so we finished the work. What next? Yeah, and okay, and orchestrator has definition of service one event and has the definition of service two, but service one and service two, they don't have
Information about each other.
About each other. We can say that in the end of the day, it's just a contract, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this is the difference. The whole workflow, whole the orchestration we have in orchestrator, and I think it's the point of this pattern.
Mm-hmm. So we would have the whole, let's say, logic of what should be launched next to what in this single orchestrator
Yes.
service. Mm-hmm. And then it would be responsible for understanding what kind of handlers and what kind of events should be launched next, and it's just communicating on the queue to certain not to certain services, but basically to the queue, and certain services should be able to pick up.
Yeah, and orchestrator is not aware of specific handlers, is aware only of the messages. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't give to its child. It's for a child too, so I shouldn't say some bad words. But let's say we have orchestrator, and he see an event map to other event.
Mm-hmm.
And put it into the queue, and it's everything because it's the developer concern. It's a good message or not. He implemented it, so it should be aware of it. That okay, so I mapped into this message, and this message should be trigger the handler in this service. But we are just provide the easy way to implement such orchestrator, an easy tool, an easy builder to move from one message to another message. That was my idea, and it was because I tried to find the easiest way to implement it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like. I mean, I'm not saying anything because I'm thinking. I'm also most people are lazy, so simple solutions are most welcome ones, actually.
Maybe we can in the future wrap it somehow to implement more complex solution, but maybe for the core solution, it can be our engine. Yeah.
Well, I'm now thinking about what you said, that would be a tool to move from one message to another message, and this makes sense. But this tool what it should also do is that in the end, it should be able to call something like revert, rollback.
Yes.
And in the end,
rollback.
And in the end, I understand that some service would fail or would need to communicate fail, and then the orchestrator would say that, let's say,
So
we would need to figure out also how the rollbacks work. So for example, that we would give the ID, as you said, with certain
mhm.
command that this failed, and all the services are aware how to roll back.
Yes, yes, and yeah, and yeah, I didn't finish, to be honest, my talk because yeah, I came up also with the compensated messages. So if in some point some handler will fail, service have to communicate. Have to publish the message of fail message, yes, some kind of fail message
You mean
that
the service?
has, yes, the service has to put on the queue the fail message,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, and orchestrator with ID, orchestrator will be okay. So let's trigger the compensate message, not the regular one,
Yeah.
for the previous services.
Yeah. So this is what I said, but
Yeah, yeah.
mm,
So, and we have just in one place whole workflow of those messages rather than in every service. Yes, that's okay. We have compensate message, so we have to compensate, send the compensate message to the other service or something like that. Another service must be aware of this. Of course, but it I think it will be very very helpful for the developer that he see everything in one place. I mean the whole workflow, whole messages,
mm-hmm.
and I mean in the pull request it will be very very easy. Yeah, but because right now I notice that when I'm read some of workflows, some handlers that triggers and other handlers with messages. It's very hard to me
Navigate
to
around.
understand. Yes, understand the actual workflow.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be, I think, very very easy to came up with the idea of the whole workflow of this process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm sure that there are drawbacks, so
Yeah,
let's find those.
I'm basically thinking about what may be the drawbacks here.
Mhm.
That's what I'm trying to think about, because I was thinking about maybe abstracting away from the queue. So maybe we
Mhm.
can create something without having queue in the middle. But I didn't do research, so I would need to do research here, because for example, you have this DTM, and the DTM is something that I believe is not using a queue.
Mhm.
Mm,
But for example, you want to communicate with orchestrator by the HTTP.
that's the question. I don't know.
Maybe we can, let's say
I mean,
we just
it's
we
definitely
can
easier with
replace.
queue. It's definitely easier with queue.
Yeah, it's definitely easier, but maybe if someone want to, um, use such orchestrator with HTTP, maybe it's also possible just replacing those messages with, I don't know, messages, of, let's say, events messages in the HTTP code, yeah, and it will be very similar idea, but it would be something like not fire and forget, but we didn't when we will send the message. I think it should be like we like message, yes. So we didn't expect the response of something. It should only notify the orchestrator, not get the data.
Well, the queue actually solves some more problems, like, for example, what if the orchestrator dies?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the
it's
queue will keep the messages on
mm-hmm.
itself until the orchestrator picks them up.
Mm-hmm.
Is the orchestrator needed then? What if each service responsible for starting
Mm-hmm.
a certain saga would be the orchestrator for this saga? Would that make sense?
Okay, so part of the saga is in each service, yes.
Not
Um,
part. Like, look in here. So mm, that in the end the saga starts in the order service that is
mhm.
triggering the rest. So
Mm-hmm.
the question is, I'm just thinking out loud because this is choreography. I mean, this one, orchestration.
Mm-hmm.
That essentially the order service starts the saga. So it's aware of starting and ending it. Do we need a separate service for this? Wait, I will let in the cat. I will let that sink in.
So
I mean,
you mean
do we need a separate? Because as you said,
mm-hmm.
we would create a certain language or certain way to create those sagas, and then do we need this single place for them or not?
Okay, so you want to the whole definition of workflow in one service that is an entry point.
It's not like I want. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Does it make sense or not?
Okay. Mm.
Mm,
Mm. Then we don't have a problem with the orchestrator. I mean, with the depth of the orchestrator.
okay, so this DTM, for example, now works entirely different because it says that the saga mode of DTM is very simple. Users only need to write the forward and compensating operations and then submit all the transaction branch URLs to DTM, and DTM will do the rest. So I assume that this service of theirs, I mean this DTM, how it works is it actually triggers URLs one by one in certain order.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It would be very similar to the my idea. I mean, if we want to use HTTP, yes. We have one orchestrator that triggers some endpoints or some handlers by message. So DTM has separate service, yes?
Yes, this is a separate service, but
Okay.
it offers more than just a Saga. It has this two-phase commits, as I believe, and something else.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just something that I found on the road. It's not like we need to think directly or having them in mind. I was just curious how they made it rather than copying them or something like that. So this is what I kind of wanted to understood. I'm honestly I'm leaning towards your idea more. It's just I didn't do the research before, which I wanted to do a bit now, and that's why I'm thinking about if this is because I wanted to more understand if we want to like create this service that it will be handling it without the queue in mind, or do we need to have a queue in mind? Do we want to store, as you said, those and what are the consequences of storing those sagas in a single service, then in storing them in a distributed way and allowing the saga to be controlled by, let's say, starting service, for example, like on this image. So like those are more things that I'm considering now, because I mean I do like your idea, honestly. I think it's clean. What buys me the most is that the idea of separating this, that we are like gluing something on a side. It means that we do not necessarily break anything inside a system that already uses queue. It can just be extended by this, and this is actually a very good feature. This is very compliant with the solid principles, honestly. And this is I'm honestly leaning towards this. I'm just thinking, did you consider other scenarios when you came up with this?
I considered also some distributed scenarios, and I realized that we have to. I mean, I considered some like let's say special abstract classes or interfaces that will do some work for us and so on and so on. But I realized in every project we have a lot of base classes of handlers and something like that. So it would be hard to add another one and to mess up with this. So I started thinking about something we can implement without the changes of the interfaces. Interfaces of the handlers and with on the with handler interfaces. So if we don't change the interfaces, it's quite easy to provide this to implement this pattern. I think so. I started considering some other options, and I realized that hey, so we have an event and with messages, maybe it's enough. Maybe we can just manipulate the workflow of events, not manipulate the workflow of handlers. Handler is very, very client based, let's say. It's very specific for the client. And moreover, we can orchestrate other application. I mean, in Java application, Python application, we can. We are, language agnostics, because
this is true. Yeah,
we
you're
don't.
Right.
We don't have. Maybe you should use the C# to create the definition in the orchestrator, but if it will be very easy to implement, it's not big deal to implement the definition in C# that is very well documented with a lot of examples. It's only one service that should be simple and have a lot of definitions that are very similar to each other.
You are selling this idea pretty well. Look, look how Google is doing it. They are. Look how they are doing it. They are doing it with YAML, and they are also defining the URLs.
Okay. Yeah,
that's actually sneaky. That's actually pretty good. But either way, this is something that either can be defined in YAML.
Yes, we can wrap this orchestrator, and let's say we can accept YAML files or JSON files. So we can.
Yeah, but people don't really like programming in JSON.
Yeah.
I mean, but from the perspective, is it? That's actually a pretty good idea with the YAML. Whoever thought about this at Google, pretty good idea. But then, what it would allow us, is that if people would somewhere in the company, it kind of means that the orchestrator could be updated dynamically via updating the YAML. But then it means that we have there might be no control over how the orchestrator updates or do you catch my drift or not with this?
Yeah. I'm thinking.
What I'm saying is that imagine you had the WCF services, the WSDLs. So you could host a YAML or JSON, and then the orchestrator could consume it, and based on it, it would be aware how to manage with the events and stuff. But I don't necessarily think that. Well, I see the benefit of using C#. Because it's object oriented basically, and you are kind of covered in terms of defining things. If we would allow it to be defined fluently, then it just works out of the box. But then you need to manage the project, you need to deploy it, you need to take care of it, etc., and build it. And in these terms, we give you a service, and you're just inserting YAMLs or JSON into it. That's. I'll write it.
have to start from the C sharp, and if we
No, yeah,
find
yeah,
out
definitely.
this
But
solution.
what I'm more thinking about is that if,
Mhm.
because as you said, like look what we are leaning more towards to now. So we are not creating like a library, but now we are more of like creating a service.
Mhm. Well, the final service will be implemented by developers, not us.
Well, that
Our
actually now it depends.
okay.
Look that now it actually depends, because if we would lean towards putting this service on another level, let's say,
Mhm.
and feeding it with some kind of files that would define how the workflows work, then nothing has to be changed by the developers. They are basically loading
Yes.
the library, let's say. They are
Mhm.
hosting it. They are not changing anything in the code as users. What they are only doing is they are defining their processes inside some kind of file,
Yes.
feeding it to the orchestrator, and then the orchestrator uh, is just ready to work.
Yes. 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 That's right. Uh, no, I pretty like this idea.
Because this is something different than we were thinking about from the beginning.
Ye- Yeah, but I know, but we should start from the library, yes, and then we can create
I mean, it would be,
service.
in the end, it would be it would be a library. But imagine, like, look how identity server is built.
Mm-hmm.
In identity server, you are downloading the package, and you can just add some lines, I think, or add identity server. It's an extension method, I think, on the services or something like that. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
running your service, and you have identity server running
Yeah.
in the basic form, of course, right? But it's running right
Mm-hmm.
away. So that's,
Yes.
we could do the same with the orchestrator. It would run right away,
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yes.
but you
That's
would
right.
need to feed it, for example, with
With
YAML or JSON. But it's the same as Swagger, for example. It's also
mm-hmm. Yes.
generating code.
That's right.
Hmm. They are doing it how? Okay, it's just a pseudocode here, but this is a pretty good. I will copy this. We do need a service that is coordinator, and it would be the best if it would be covered with a queue, because this solves us that if orchestrator is dead, we are persistent when it comes to certain steps not being picked up from the queue. Does it have any drawbacks? What if orchestrator dies? Well, nothing, because we have the queue. Does it add an extra layer of something? Well, of complexity. Maybe it even doesn't, even if you add another service, because in the end you have your flows or transactions or distributed events in a single place where you can just check and see. You can look and see through what services does it go and what is being passed on this. What if we wouldn't use a queue? Well, we would need to have some kind of store or a database that orchestrator is able to track down what has been launched and what hasn't been launched. We would need to apply by hand retry policies. Because how I would imagine this is that you would have different queues. So orchestrator would need to also have different plugins to work with different queue types.
Yes.
So Service Bus, Rabbit, Kafka, and others, the most popular ones, I guess. And what if we would store this in multiple services? We wouldn't actually know where certain things start, so it might be harder to navigate for developers. We have this single place. What in terms of deployment of this thing? What in terms of scaling? How would this scale? Isn't this a bottleneck somehow? Can we create another instances? We cannot create another instances of this.
Maybe we can create. No, we can't create second queue. But it can be like if we have multiple instances of orchestrators, the orchestrator can identify that the message he received is not for him because it's with ID that it don't know. So he put.
But then we would need to.
It put back to the queue. Yeah. So it's.
Yeah, but then I know what you kind of mean, like a sticky session kind of maybe thing, but.
Yeah, sticky session is, but also we can just get the message and we can say it's for us or not for us, and we can put it back to the queue for another orchestration. Yes. And it's of course not optimized because we getting message and we putting back, but it's not critical. I think it would kind of work.
Can we abstract something like this away? Because let me figure something out, because I think this is a good idea. Oops. No, undo. Okay. I think this is something that we should follow. So we would have an orchestrator with the queues. I think you've done your research, and it makes sense even from those. If I would load another one, if we have those, because it's different here because the Saga is here, like in this service, but I don't see a benefit in having it here. I feel like it's better if we have something like here, that we have the coordinator here, and it's also like a bit different than this image, because on our idea, the Saga execution coordinator, in between those arrows of T1 start, T1 end, T2 start, T2 end, blah blah blah, in the middle there is a queue. So another layer of protection, let's say, kinda. Or from the perspective of if something is dead, so in this case coordinator, then well, the whole system is kind of broke because it knows how to navigate around, but the messages are not lost, so they are still there, and they are still going somewhere because there is queue, and I think this is a very very good idea to do this like that, because if we would do only coordinator, then we would need to. I don't yet know if we will need database. This is something that I want to figure out in a second, but this is better if we would do this like that without the queue in between, because without the queue we would have to think like this create order needs to retry if it doesn't get to the coordinator or something like that, so the message is not lost, etc. So without the queue, I think this would be way more complex, not only from developer perspective, but also from our perspective in the end, how to implement this. So this might get like the queue solves at least the availability and the consistency, I think. So I would leave it, but the next thing that I wanted to figure out is that we would define Saga example. Okay? Can I do one? Nope. Yes. Okay. So we would create a. Come on. Why is it like that? Okay, whatever. Okay, Saga example. So, one. What I want to try to like mimic now is I want to understand now if we need to make the orchestrator stateful. Or it can work stateless. Doesn't matter from our perspective.
I think it should be stateful because the transaction is, it has some steps, so we have to track those steps somehow. I think that we know that this is or maybe not. Maybe we can send in each message identifier, something like that, that we can identify that
Wait, let me just create
No,
some.
no, I think it's okay.
I want to create some kind of. I want to have some idea of a process, right? And let's say
Okay.
that we would start an order with. I don't remember how those IDs are called in the distributed systems. I have a hard time remembering this word.
Correlation ID?
Correlation ID, yes, exactly. So we would have a correlation ID of 1. So usually that would be a GUID, but let's have a 1. Okay, so start an order. Each would have a payload, right? So start an order. I understand that in the end it would create the order in its DB, right? I think it would. So payload would be some items, right? Now validate the inventory would check if with the given payload it would check if inventory is available and reduce it, right? And for ID 1 and payload okay. Process payment action for ID 1 payload amount, I assume, right? Confirm order. SAGA example. 3 states. New in progress. Confirm order. 1 ID 1 change status sponsor on first service, something more or less like that would happen here. And now why I wrote this, because now what I want to understand, and my brain is not working so much now, I think, or I at least feel like it. I would like to understand if the orchestrator needs to keep the payloads. And from what I wrote now, it does need to keep the payloads. And we will need a store for this. Or am I mistaken?
Yeah, we should, I think, because we can, for example, it could be important for compensation. For example, that we have
Yeah, that's what I'm actually thinking about. Is does the orchestrator, because the orchestrator, I mean, we can make a rule that the service that is rising the start this one that when
Mhm.
it's creating an event for the queue with some kind of payload, then the
Mhm.
orchestrator is acting and it doesn't really think about it. It's just creating the required next step, right,
Mhm.
after what it received, and it's just copying the payload
Yes.
from the queue. That's it. It's not even checking. So this could be nice. The question is that is the uh, is the compensation sent along? I mean, for example, if we start an order, do we right away tell the orchestrator how this should be compensated so it keeps this information, or there is a compensation handler that we can, for example, just pass the correlation ID, and then if it saves some item in the database and it receives the ID on the handler,
Mhm.
it knows how to roll back right away. Just always with ID. I mean, is it even possible to do, or not? Or am I?
Um,
Mm,
I think each compensation message for each. I mean, every message should have a compensation message to compensate. Those action we did. So we can pass, for example, the payload we created from previous one from the action. Maybe it will be enough for compensating. I mean, if we create some items, three items, and we have idea of those items, the compensation handler can receive those items idea, and it should act the removing. Yes, it should remove those items from the database. So for each handler, it should be also the compensation handler.
mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Wait, I'm waiting for the. Now I'm thinking about. So, service one sends the start and order
Mm-hmm.
and creates the ID one and some payload,
Yes.
and it passes the payload needed for the validate inventory because it needs to understand that if some items are in the inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, wait. Now I have one more idea. Um, so it also adds the compensation for this one. The orchestrator
Mm-hmm.
then sends another message to service number 2 with
Mm-hmm.
copied payload.
Yes.
And then this one is also doing some action and it's going back also with information on how to roll back the changes that it has done.
Mm-hmm.
That means, sadly, that this is stateful because the orchestrator somehow needs to, well, stateful in terms of that what I had an idea to do. So just so you
Mm-hmm.
understand me what I'm trying to achieve, but now I'm saying all of this out loud because I'm now trying, I think, to convince myself that this is not really possible, because I wanted to treat the orchestrator kind of imagine like a router.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine that the first service is sending something with some kind of data, and orchestrator says that, okay, I know what to do, next one, sends it here, bam, and it just acts kind of like a sign on the road where it should go. But then if we want to go back, it's not really possible to tell the other services what has to be changed back.
But after we something changed, we should, let's say, notify that we changed the object or some domain of the or something like that with ID something. And if message will back,
I mean, maybe
compensate message with this ID, maybe it will be.
I mean, maybe I will rephrase what I said.
Okay.
I wanted to make the orchestrator work with the rollbacks in a way that it doesn't have to pass the payload for a rollback.
Mm-hmm.
That it is
Okay.
just saying rollback this. But I don't really feel like this is possible until the services would store the information about step in SAGA, about the whole event.
So we can pass in data through the orchestrator or store in services. And can we do something else? I don't think so. Right now, I don't see anything else.
Okay, maybe let's. I think I get a grasp over it now. Okay, maybe I will draw this again. Sorry, but I will draw this vertically again.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now, I am just redrawing basically what you have drawn.
I see.
But I kind of want to make it for the situation that something is failing, because I want us to have a picture of this with the description, so we are later able to well, put it into the backlog basically. So the orchestrator knows that this is the order, right? So there would be start an order, and then service 2, it would run so now it would start executing the SAGA example, or also after this happens, basically the start order payload, and then on this place, so in going back, it is just saying that it should validate the inventory to this one, to this guy, or to Q basically at this point, but here, and then this guy is once again going from here, weird. Is going here. That's not really what I wanted. Let's do this again. Annoying a bit, but it works. Reduce inventory payload plus compensate. Oh, wait, validate. Okay, this is what I was missing. Plus payload. Plus payload. Right, because now it's sending only payload. In here, it's sending reduce payload plus compensate. Right?
And what is compensate?
In this case, the compensate here, it's information about how to roll back this transaction that it emitted. So look what I'm trying to draw here. One more second. I will also maybe... Okay, I think this is understandable that this and this is common, and this is... reduce it a bit. Okay, no, it's the same thing. I will maybe move you a bit. So look what is happening here. This is the example what I wanted to do, because now we are drawing a process that we can follow a bit. Look, the first thing is start an order. So each time certain action is done on the service and it emits the event that later is picked up by the orchestrator. If this is any, let's say in CQRS terms, command, then it's also posting to the queue an information about compensating this action. Right? When an orchestrator then picks up that the SAGA started executing, so basically this SAGA here, right? There is an order started. Next, it's not sending further the compensate method, because everything that will go from the orchestrator, it's only about the payload that is needed to run the validate inventory action. So the service number 2 is doing the validate inventory. Maybe the naming is bad. It could be better, but it would be rather like update and validate, or update inventory or something like that. However, this is doing certain action on its database, and it's emitting an event for the orchestrator, reduce inventory payload, that it has reduced it, and it also consists of compensation for this. So again, to the orchestrator goes an information that, from the perspective of simple terms, is just, okay, done my work. Here is how to revert it. Run the next step. Run the next step is to it's process payment plus payload required for processing the payment. So I assume that these payloads are tied together, kinda, right?
Right.
So again, next arrow here. Okay, here. Bam, we've got it. It's going here. Process payment plus payload. Confirm order from the service 3. So now we have, and another arrow. Confirm order plus compensate. And you may ask why this is the last step, because this is not the last step. Basically, right? We have it like this, and then the last step is to, that this is not here, but 5 change order status ID 1 would be in payload, I assume, something like this. Whoa. Okay, and we are back, and this is the last thing, because now it's not rolling back, because at this moment this service 1, correct me if I'm wrong, but to end the process of SAGA, the last step on service 1 is just acknowledged or not, and reverted. Does it make sense now? Because we don't need to confirm anything in here with the compensate, because there is no next step. So if we just get an acknowledgement that something has happened on the service 1, then the SAGA is complete. It can change status to done.
Okay.
Right? On the other side, if it would fail on any other part, the orchestrator has to somehow persist the data about rolling back. So we would need to track. So we would, in the end, I think we would need to have the database. But this, I would create a NoSQL for this. Honestly, it would be the easiest one to maintain. I think, let me quickly add something in here, because we would need an orchestrator, or let's call it SAGA log. That's an easy, catchy name, right? Keeps track of sagas run and compensate each step. Nope. I wanted to Does it make sense? Sorry, I'm just better at pictures. Sorry, Shimon. But does it put any value on how we would like to build it? Did you see it the same way, or maybe something should be different? Does it?
Yeah, I think it's like I imagine it's. I consider it so. No, it looks good.
Because now we see that why I done the drawing, just so you understand, because I wanted to see the flows, or the flow that we can create if it's repeatable. So now we can see from the picture that we can create something that's repeatable, because going the way from the service to orchestrator, we see that there will be a payload plus compensate operation. Going from orchestrator to certain service, it will always be rise some kind of an event on the service plus payload for the event. No compensation method there. There is a SAGA log that knows that there is a start executing SAGA, so there would be a SAGA example. Let's say that would be the name of the SAGA. It's aware of the steps, and it will be aware of the compensation steps that it will be able to save in the log and later retrieve if something is about to be reverted. So we see that the flow is payload plus compensate to orchestrator, and only payload to the service from the orchestrator. Always the last step will just have the last acknowledgement or not. If it's not acknowledged in maybe certain time or something that we'll think about later on, it will be, the SAGA log will be used and all the changes will be reverted. We have the queue in the middle, so unless the queue dies, we always have the messages there. Even if orchestrator dies, we just have the queue full of messages that will need to be processed. The orchestrator is not being dead. We have the SAGA log that is holding the, maybe not necessarily the payloads, because I don't feel like the SAGA log needs to hold the payload. Maybe we can discuss this. Do you think that it should hold the payload in the log?
It should hold the compensate, maybe not the payload.
Also, from my perspective, that's true. But what if orchestrator dies before sending something? It will not acknowledge the message then, and it will just grab it again from the queue and send it again. Sorry, I answered my own question, I think. Shimon, this makes sense from my perspective.
I think we can create prototype for this, and maybe we can create separate prototype, and we can compare our ideas. I mean, our prototypes. I mean the implementation, yes,
Mm-hmm.
because it's without the handling some edge cases or something like that. The basic idea, I think it's quite easy to implement it. Um, and to show the flow and create some mock where we have SAGA log, where we have some services and how the messages are flowing between. Mm,
Well, you see, the
mhm,
idea of this, I don't really want to make it separate, because the idea of the
mhm,
stream is that we work together and we solve
mhm.
the challenge together, and we work
Okay.
together, because, well, we can make two different proof of concepts and then start arguing that, hey, mine is better. Mine is definitely better than yours, and
Mhm.
let's do the vote, which one is better. But in the
Mm,
end, I believe that we should try to make it as we would make an application. That's why I want us to create a backlog to define
okay.
what should be done in the MVP, maybe what how to set up the how we will, well, maybe I will set up the Git and the DevOps later on my own. So, because this is not really interesting, I don't feel like this needs to be on the stream. But what I
Mhm.
so just Shimon, just so you understand also my way of thinking is that uh, I want to present how we work, basically. This is also the idea, and us working together, following this process of doing it, is presenting how we do things here. At least that's my idea,
Okay.
and
I agree.
to prove that it basically can work for anything. I believe. So I want to demonstrate also how we break this down, so we both understand it, so we can plan our
Mhm.
work and then start executing it, basically.
Okay.
And also to do the programming on the stream.
Mhm.
That's the idea,
Okay, I
because
understand.
I'm 100% sure that on the next stream you could show up with the working POC. I'm pretty confident that you are capable of doing this. Or not pretty, but I'm 100% sure that you are able to do that, because you're a smart guy. But I want to show how we are working.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's okay. I understand, and let's go like that, like that.
Okay, so I will show the notepad, the magic notepad again,
Mm-hmm.
at the middle of the screen. Uh, I added some things, so uh, compensate messages. I don't know if this is something we've seen or not, but uh, language. What you mentioned is that's important, and that's why I want to build the backlog, because we can consider things that are question marked here. So,
Mm-hmm.
language agnostic, easy to implement flow or definition of the saga. Do we handle this with YAML or JSON? Because those things are doable once we just notice that the maybe I'll move this, that that we have a flow, that there is a payload and compensate to orchestrator, and the other way there is only payload. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's worth thinking about how this may work. Uh, Different plugins to work with different queue types. We need to make some kind of layer of abstraction over the queue so we can manage with
Mm-hmm.
different queues, right?
Yeah.
Uh, etc., etc. So I want to basically be more specific about all of the scenarios or all of the ideas that we had, to maybe try to define them and how they can be implemented, because I understand that you wanted to make POC, but I believe that we do know what we want to build in terms of, we know that this is doable, so we don't really need some kind of proof of concept, because let's be honest, you know how to connect to a queue. Like,
Yeah.
I know how to connect to the queue. We know how to receive and send messages back and forth. The the idea is to, as you said, to create some kind of conventions, to figure out those kind of things, to do it together so it can work for not just us but for more people. And I think that this is something that's important here, that there is actually, here there is more thinking than programming. I think, not I'm not sure of this yet, but definitely, for example, I can add here another point, schema for the DB to create a SAGA log. So you can be sure that most of those will be later transferred into features or user stories or things like that. That's why I'm noting everything.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
So we made a decision. I'm very proud of us, and even more of you, because it's your idea in the end with the orchestrator and queue. So
Thanks.
very good idea and very good work. Really proud of you. That's really great what you came up with. We have managed. I will now shut down the notepad. We managed to draw the image of how we want the flow to look like with an example saga, and this kind of gave us idea to create the log and how the flows will go, so we have an idea of that. And then on the next stream, I believe we will create a backlog and plan our work, basically. So
Okay.
we will try to figure out how do we plan to basically send those messages in a structured way. I feel like this is the idea. We'll try to create a backlog. I will add another point, layer of abstraction over the queue, because that's like, this is always kind of a brainstorming sessions, as I have a feeling about it on creating backlogs. That's why I'm writing all the ideas that I have, that we need a layer of abstraction over the queue, for example, so we later can put this in, because we will remember that this has to be done. Okay, I feel like we delivered today.
Yeah. I'm also proud of us.
Yeah.
So it was very fruitful, very great discussion today. I'm glad I'm creating this with you, and I hope it will work.
I'm pretty sure it will work. We will make it work. Don't worry. So step 1 is done. Next stream next week, create a backlog and plan our work. That's what you will watch with us next time. But for today, I feel like we will wrap up.
Yes.
We will chat a bit off the stream, I think, and now I will look at the camera again, subscribe, leave a comment. Maybe it's disabled so you cannot leave comments, but I'll try to resolve it the next time. Have a nice evening, guys, and see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.